Okay, we're good? We're ready? Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Safari Pedal Show. I'm your host, Abby. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Crazy Wild Safari Podcast Zoo Thing bandwagon. It's great to have y'all here. I am super pumped because Evo is going to be on the show. He's an awesome producer. We're going to be diving into his philosophy when it comes to music production, how he likes to approach the craft of music production and his mindset towards it. We are also going to be tackling the question, what separates a good producer from a great producer? I cannot wait to get his take on that one. And also, of course, advice that he has for new producers like myself and engineers, do not forget y'all, that are just starting out, and all of that good producer stuff. I feel like there's nothing more that is useful that I can add to this intro. So, please give a very warm Safari welcome to Evo.
What's going on? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. Super pumped to have you on today. Before we dive into today's episode, let's start with who you are, what you do, and we'll take it from there.
All right, my name is Evo. Currently in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm a music producer, musician, sound designer, engineer, anything music related, I do.
I love that.
Except sing.
Minus the singing part. We'll definitely note that. Curious, before we continue, what got you into the world of audio minus singing in the first place?
Well, originally, I was born in Sicily, so I came here at a very young age, and I didn't speak any English or anything. So my parents got me a drum set because they're kind of like, we got to keep this kid busy. So they got me a drum set. So I kind of just started playing music a little bit. But I remember also seeing like Michael Jackson on TV, and it just gave me this feeling like him performing. I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like, I want to do that. Like, whatever that is, that feeling I'm getting watching him like perform, like I want to do that. So like the older I got, I started playing music more, and then every year, like my uncle, he played bass guitar and he played keys, and my other uncle played guitar and stuff like that. So every year I was getting new instruments, but I was always making sure that I was keeping up with the other instruments. If I got a new instrument the next year, I was still practicing the old stuff. And then just over time, I kind of like, I feel like as a lot of music producers became these hermits of like, I just always wanted to stay inside and just, I learned Jimi Hendrix songs, and like I never wanted to go outside and play. I just really fell in love with like exploring what's next. I kind of would get here and I'm like, all right, cool, but what's after this? And I kind of like kept doing that, and it kind of got me to a place where like, I got a lot of success from it, and I'm just super blessed to kind of like keep doing that after all these years.
That's awesome, dude. Absolutely love that. And also super cool how like from like a drum set, everything just kind of like unfolded.
Yeah, and that's why also too, like I'm a big MPC user. I think like a drummer. Even though my main instrument is guitar and piano, I'm always thinking about drums. I'm always tapping while I'm driving. I was always getting in trouble in school for tapping on the desk, so that's why the MPC and I connect so good, because I'm always, a drummer at heart. But I'm not really the best drummer. So like my MPC is my drums, but on a real kit, I can kind of play a little bit, but like I haven't really played in years like that.
Dope. So on that note of all musical things, I'd love to dive in and get your take, like your philosophy as a producer, if you have one, kind of like if you have a mindset that you operate with when approaching production and that whole universe.
Yeah, so if I'm producing by myself, like for an artist, and I'm just in the studio by myself, I really have to kind of like, I have to have the idea first, because I can't just sit down and make a beat just to say like, oh, I'm just gonna wake up and make a beat today. Like, it's not gonna work out. I literally need to like walk around, because I live in a city, so I walk around. I need to kind of have an idea in my head. I have to kind of like beatbox or hear a melody. So then when I sit down, I already know like the drum loop. I already know the chord progression. All I gotta do now is find the sound that I want. But if I'm working with an artist, I have to kind of really get to know the artist before I work with them. So I like to, go out to lunch or just come by the studio and talk before we even turn any equipment on. I want to kind of know like the person, where they're at in their life, where they're at mentally that day, all that kind of stuff. That's going to help me distinguish like what we're going to produce, the sounds I'm going to choose, the chord selection. If someone's going through a breakup or something like that, I already know, all right, I'm going to use a minor. The song's going to be minor. It's going to be so all these things kind of like, it's almost like playing therapist, everyone as a producer, like that's the difference between like a beat maker and a producer is like the producer's super involved where the beat maker just kind of like does their thing and like, here, do whatever. So that's kind of like my approach. I have to really just play a therapist and really like dig really deep to kind of like figure out what's going to make this song, come to life, whether it's with an artist or by myself. Because if I'm not feeling it, most of the time the artist might not feel it, so I have to kind of like be a fan of my own work. If I can sit back and play it back, like there's been beats where I can play back like, 20 times and I'm driving, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, not even just because I made it, but I'm like I would listen to this. And usually those are the songs that like have success, to me at least.
That's super cool. And I have a follow-up question about that. Like you said, playing therapist, like did it take you a long time to kind of get into the mindset of like, this is what a producer is? Like, was that kind of a learning process with time, or like from the get, was it like, this is what a producer is to the artist, etc.?
No, it took me years. Honestly, like I always thought beat making producer was like just a different way of like titling it. But then as I got older and I would meet more industry guys and they were like, I'm a producer and I'm a producer. And then like, I started really understanding like what they were saying and then like what I was doing. I was like, wait, what you do is not what I do. Like they're in the session with the artist, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're calling the musicians, like they're literally there from the beginning to the end. I was like, I don't do any of that. And they're like, you're just a beat maker. And I was just like, I don't want to be just a beat maker. Like, I don't like, it's almost like being talked down on, like, oh, you're just a beat maker. I want to be a producer. Like, I want to do that. But then what really got me into that was like Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones, he produced so much of Michael's stuff and never actually touched anything. Like, he never actually made a beat. You see like guys like DJ Khaled, all these, big producers. Is being a producer really is, you just have to have the vision and then hire the guys to make it happen. You don't really have to sit there and make the beat. If you just call people in and you start doing that. So for the longest time, it took me a while to really like understand what that was like. But by being in sessions and watching people and just being a fly on the wall, I kind of started learning like, okay, you have to really like walk in these sessions and you have to be the captain. It's almost like you have to almost like be respected. Like, because sometimes I would walk in a room and I would be like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then it's almost like that stuff wouldn't happen. So as I got older, I started really understanding like, this is the vibe. I need to call this songwriter in. I need to call this, horn player, this bass player in, and kind of like make things happen. And then from there, it started all click. And I was like, okay, like this is like what producing is.
On that note, what to you separates a good producer from a great producer? Like you touched on kind of being the therapist. Are there kind of more elements that come into play in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, you could be a good producer and just kind of have the ideas, and kind of like I was talking about earlier, you can put the pieces together. But then I feel like a great producer can really understand like what song to go, which they know with like this song is the one. They can separate the sounds is really good. They know exactly like even to the point where like making sure the artist is good, before they come in the studio. Hey, how's your voice feeling? Like I'll warm up some artists. I feel like a lot of producers don't do that. So I'll warm the singer up on the piano before we start. Hey, do you need some tea? You need this? Making sure you go over and beyond for the artist, not just musically, but also like emotionally, because I feel like a lot of artists are very, their songs are like their diary. So that's like their most vulnerable place. They won't talk about their problems to most people, but they will tell the world in their songs the problems. So if you can kind of like go beyond that and kind of really just be their friend, other than just like, oh, I'm just a producer for today, you know, things like that may not seem like big, but that's what makes like a great producer as well, is like just really caring for the artist itself, but also, of course, just the music as well. But you know, there's just that thing, like you can be, it's almost like you could be a good host, but then you could be an awesome host. Like you can have people at your house and it's like, okay, you're hosting a party, it's cool, but then you can go over and beyond, making sure everybody's good. Yeah, you need this, and I'll get that. Like just going over and beyond, you know what I mean? And that's what makes like just that extra little bit. Because being a good producer and a great producer is very close, but it's just that extra stuff that you do separates you from being great.
I love that. And I love the host analogy. I'm definitely gonna take that one forward. Like use that as kind of like a measure. Like how am I hosting? How am I hosting?
Oh yeah.
This show is centered around being new and up and coming. Do you have any pieces of advice specifically more towards like the new producer and engineer crowd, things that like either you want to call attention to or really anything else?
Yeah, honestly, I always get this question all the time, is like, what advice do you have for me for like upcoming producer, songwriter, anything like that? And honestly, it's like the one thing I didn't do was get out the house. I mean, it's great to network online. I mean, when I was younger, we didn't have Instagram. I remember when YouTube first came out, and then I was like, what is this? Like, this is cool. You know what I mean? Like, and I watched guys like Zaytoven and all these guys on that platform when they were nobodies. You know, they were just like these guys. And of course, I didn't do any of that. It's just easy to get locked into like being in your bedroom, just making beats, cooking up all day. Your boys come over, you're cooking up. And now you can network online and it's great. But when you go to these actually events and you see people, and it's actually happened to me a couple of times, like I'll go up to someone like, yo, what's up, man? They're like, who are you? Yo, we talk on Instagram all the time. They're like, we do? And then they look like, oh, Evo, yeah, what's up, man? But it's because I'm not showing my face, you know? And I've been doing that more the last couple of years, is actually shaking hands, actually getting their phone numbers. But also not getting a phone number, just be like, oh, I just want to get this guy's phone number because I want to work with Drake. You know, it's like I build an organic relationship. And there's guys that I've known for years that I've never even said, hey, can I send you some music? Like if we text, it's, hey, how's your wife doing? Hey, how's the family? Hey, let's grab a beer. Like, and never really talk about music, just a legit relationship. And that's like the biggest thing that I feel like the younger generation doesn't really do. They're so like focused on just trying to get on that, yo, listen to this. And it's like, you just have to kind of like be patient and just build a relationship. And over time, things will happen. So like, that's like my biggest like advice is like, you know, definitely get out of the studio, go to events, network face to face. I mean, Instagram and stuff is cool, but you really need to shake hands and kind of communicate face to face, because people will remember your face way more than remembering a username.
And that hit home. I definitely also need to get out of the studio, see the light of day more. Get out of that.
Yeah, and like I said before, like producers are naturally like video game nerds. We're like, you know, antisocial, you know, like a lot of producers you see like they're into like anime and the video games, and they have like action figures and like, you know, and that's like because that's what the kind of like creators are. We're into like that kind of stuff. So like naturally we don't want to leave the house, you know. Even for me, like I had my studio at my house and people are like, yo, you come in the studio? I'm like, eh. And I sometimes have to remember, like, you know, go to the studio. Like, what are you gonna do inside all day? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I can make beats here, but sometimes like you're not gonna meet anyone new in the studio. I'm only gonna have the same connections that I have now. So if I want to make new connections, I have to, you know, I got to go to LA, I got to go to Atlanta, I got to meet people, shake hands, because almost like how you build natural friends. If me and you hang out and then one of your friends there, you introduce me to your friend. Next, you know, I just gained one friend, and now me and that friend might hang out without you. But then, like, by doing that, you kind of like, you know, you start building more and more friends, and becomes a circle, you know. So it's the same thing with music. Just really get out there and just don't be scared to like walk up to people, shake hands, because I know the biggest quote in music is like being in the right place at the right time. But I feel like that quote isn't really true, because you could be at the right place at the right time. So if I'm at a party and I see Jay-Z across the room, technically, yeah, half of that quote is real. I'm at the right place at the right time. But if I'm not making that connection and walk up to Jay-Z and say, hey, what's up, shake the hand and do the rest of the stuff, that quote doesn't really, it's useless. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Is like, yeah, be the right place at the right time and all that, but really try and like just get out there and just go to shows, go to networking events, go to mixing events, go to writing camps, you know, do a whole bunch of stuff.
I love that.
You know?
And guys, it's okay to get some sunlight every now and then. I'm included in that thing. Don't think I'm not guilty of it. Not speaking from a high horse, but I also love how like in your approach that it kind of puts the ball in your court. Like it's not just about like happenstance, but like go up to the people and like take action, make it happen.
Yeah.
To sum up everything we spoke about production, being a good producer, I always love to ask our guests to either drop, it can be a piece of advice or anything you want to say, totally up to you to freestyle, to the amazing Studio Animal viewers. So do you have any additional things to drop to the people?
For a long time, I thought that quantity was important. And I was big into like, you know, doing the whole Kanye thing where I'm going to make 10 beats a day for the whole summer and I'm just going to, you know, do that. But then the older I got, I realized like it's all about quality, you know? And I think a lot of people kind of like almost like put themselves down, like, man, I only made one beat today, man, I suck. I didn't get much accomplished. And you have to understand like that's okay. Like sometimes these big producers drop these songs and you're like, oh man, that probably took him 10 minutes. But really it's like he might just made that beat and perfected it for the whole week. The mix, the sound, make sure the snares are good. Like really listen to the sounds, you know, and don't just, it's not a race, you know, because you can tell when you made a beat in 10 minutes compared to when you actually took your time. And those are the ones that are really gonna take off. And it's all about simplicity. You know, I always say like space is an instrument. A lot of beats that I hear have so much. They have so much. And as a producer, it's naturally that you always hear in a track, oh, what's next? It's missing something. I need something. Oh, maybe it's a synth. Maybe it's a melody. And it's like, oh, wait, the vocals. That's what's missing. So the vocals, if it's a singer, you're just going to have, you know, the lead vocals, the ad libs, the harmonies, all that's the space. Let them fill that up, you know? So I always tell a lot of the up and coming producers, like, don't worry about finishing a full beat. Just get the drums, a chord progression, a bass line, whatever it is, enough for the writer to do their thing on. Because a lot of people forget there's that word called post-production, all right? A lot of people forget about that. They just send the beat out and they're like, it's done. And it doesn't really work like that on a bigger scale with the bigger artists. You know, there's a lot of back and forth. I send you a song, you write to it. I kind of fill in the gaps, send it back. Hey, what do you think? Send it back to me. Hey, what do you think of this? There's a lot going on to where like it's more than just making a beat and sending it out. So that's kind of what I would just really say to a lot of people is like really just take your time, like really listen to the sound selection. As dumb as this may sound, but like sometimes changing a snare can change the whole record, you know, and just really dialing in and choosing the right sounds, choosing the right chord progression. Just the simplicity is it's like the beat's so simple, but everything is attached so well that you don't need much. You know, if you hear about a lot of like Drake stuff, it's so simple. You're like, I could do that. It's just the hi-hats are simple. It's just like some dope chords and sample, and the drums are basic, and he kind of flows, and it's a hit. It's like, I can make that. And then when you go to make it, you almost think like, well, it's so simple. Like, I'm just gonna lay some chords, but then you realize they don't sound the same. And it's because the perfect chord progression, there's so much thought to make it simple that makes you think like, man, that's so simple. I could do that. And then when you do, it's like you realize, oh, wow, it's actually more harder than you think to make something simple sound good.
I really appreciate you hopping on the pod and sharing so much producer wisdom. Thank you so much.
Oh, definitely. And thank you guys. You guys are great. Like I said, like, man, if you guys haven't checked them out, like, the pedals are ridiculous. I was telling you earlier, like, I'm going back to a lot of my sessions and like swapping out plugins for the Safari ones. Like the Flamingo one, I'm telling you, like, on vocals, I wish I had that plugin for like the last couple of years, because like the texture that gives them vocals, I'm like, I've been like waiting for that. It's like, it's great. It's
Super pumped you like the plugins. Guys, this is not an ad, but if you want your own Flamingo Verb, it's available on the Safari Pedals website, link in the description somewhere. Go check it out.
great. Yeah, you won't be disappointed. Trust me. Great plugin. One of the best reverbs I've heard in a long time. And I worked with a lot of analog reverbs and stuff, and that's whatever the happening in that big knob in the middle. You know, turn it all the way up. That's my vibe right there.
I don't want to talk. How you try and press the kid and really you was soft.